Yo guys, VisionEdgeGen here with some Battlefield 6 content. In today's video, I really wanted to share some gameplay from the Battlefield 6 beta so far, all of which I've had a blast playing, and just wanted to share some cool clips using various different weapons, playing different maps and modes, and just a little overview of the game so far with my thoughts on the game overall, the franchise, and the direction of this iconic title. So on that note, let's just get right into things. So I guess first things first, as a general overview of the beta so far, I think the game has been incredible, nothing short of fun, visually insane, and the map and mode dynamics have been successful. The gunplay is really good in my opinion. It did take some time adjusting from the likes of COD to Battlefield again, but also spending time in the firing range to try and maximize my experience and shoot straight, and just sort of taking that little bit of extra time to perfect my sort of settings and get it right just so I have a better experience overall. Just a general tip, I guess, if you guys haven't done that. Now, just as a little bit of a short history, as for me as a Battlefield player, with every single new game that I add to this channel, all different content I'm trying to share and start new series, new episodes, whatever it may be, I always feel it's right and justified to just give you guys a brief overview of my past experience with this franchise individually, for you guys to learn, relate, and understand my content just a little bit better, and hopefully justify as to why I'm making the content in the first place, and not just joining the bandwagon and jumping ship to try and create different games, because for the most part I am a multi-FPS sort of gamer. I like different sort of franchises, and for the most part Battlefield holds a great or special place in my heart. Battlefield 4 is actually my second favorite game of all time. I know it's a bit of a controversial pick, but for me, I've had some great experiences. I've been playing games for nearly 20 years, and Battlefield 4 is perfection in my opinion, alongside Halo Reach as my personal favorite. Just to give you guys an idea of a handful of other games that I sort of play in the background. But playing Battlefield since sort of 2008, my first ever Battlefield was Bad Company, but I think it was back in 2008 when that game first came out. That was definitely the first one I played, and I have played Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, 2042, Hardline, you name it, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 1, all of them pretty much to date, other than the sort of really early ones that I've not actually had the time to play, unfortunately, but I've heard some great things about them. And I think Battlefield 4, from what I've read and seen over the years, is held in really high regards, but I don't really know for sure. Maybe you guys should let me know down below if you guys think Battlefield 4 is a great game, or one of the best Battlefields of all time, or if it's a controversial topic, as I am aware Battlefield 3 is a big favourite in the community. But I'm interested to hear what sort of other players' thoughts and opinions are, so let me know down below on what you guys think. But I think Battlefield 6 so far, as an overview, has been massively sort of surprised the player base, and how it's combined modern movements and technology with traditional Battlefield warfare, and just gameplay in general, with 2042 being sort of a huge failure in the most recent years. And believe me, it pains me to admit that, and even say this out loud, because I hold Battlefield in the highest of regards and love the franchise very dearly. But if we're being honest, 2042 just wasn't that great, at least at launch, and even I wasn't sure if I was going to be convinced by this game. But after literally minutes of playing it, it felt incredible, and it reminded me of what was, and showed me what this game can be, with huge sort of upside potential. But also, I guess, based on this title, huge expectations with, I guess, regardless of 2042 or more, the franchise in itself carries great potential and sort of a great name, and historically has been so great, and other sort of recent titles, I guess, have also sort of held to its own. But Battlefield 5, I guess I just wanted to sort of share, get a little bit on that. I think it's criminally underrated overall. It's honestly an amazing game, and I'd highly recommend that any player that maybe hasn't played it or loves Battlefield and hasn't played for a long time, sort of in the downtime between the end of this beta this weekend and to when Battlefield 6 actually releases, you guys should definitely give that game a try. It is incredible, very underrated, and I don't think many players even gave that game a real chance. Better than 2042 in my personal opinion. Now, Battlefield 6 has some big competition with Black Ops 7 coming out in a couple of months, maybe 2-3 months time, so I do think there's definitely pressure on this game to succeed, but with so much upside potential as well, I think if Battlefield 6 is really good and Black Ops 7 sort of dies out very early, just like with Black Ops 6, or it just doesn't even do great from the get-go, then we could really see a massive sort of surge in Battlefield players, which is basically going to be really exciting for us players who like Battlefield and have sort of great respect for the game. Now, of course, I do create Call of Duty content, zombies, Warzone, you name it, on the channel, if you guys weren't already aware. Like, I do play it, and I do like Call of Duty, and I don't want it to die out, but at the same time, I really am rooting for Battlefield, and I'm sure there are many players who may watch this video and think the same, and we all want to see this game do well and sort of return to where it belongs, in the sort of holy place of gaming. This was originally one of the staples in gaming. Battlefield's sort of franchise in itself is just iconic and has so many great sort of games in itself in the past, and I really do think that this could maybe put it back on the map, and I am really sort of hoping for this game to be exactly what the beta has already shown us so far, with so much potential and so many sort of good features about the game in itself, which I'll go over in this video, of course. Now, I guess for this video, enough of the overview and the history lesson of both myself and my love for Battlefield, and just more onto the beta and Battlefield 6. So the gameplay, as I've mentioned throughout this video, is unbelievable, from the maps, the gunplay, the movement, and of course the vehicles. I think overall it's definitely been one of the best sort of opening beta weekends in my personal sort of, in the last 5 years at least, but of recent memory, this is definitely one of the best in my personal opinion. And then for the guns, my personal favorite gun of the beta so far is the M433 AR, but I'll be honest, there are so many good weapons I have used and enjoyed overall that I would definitely say all of them are really good and for the most part really enjoyable, but I've definitely say that I've enjoyed this one the most so far. I'm actually going to be making a separate video in the coming weeks, all the way in the lead up to the actual sort of game's release in itself, of all of the weapon types, sharing gameplay, tips and tricks, cool moments, etc., just to grind out some content leading up to the game's release, because I'm really passionate about Battlefield Battlefield, in case you guys already can't tell, and I really want to sort of create some content for the channel, in case there are any Battlefield fans out there who are also on the channel, or so maybe this video gets to you guys, and you guys can appreciate a fellow Battlefield sort of passionate players' opinions, different perspectives. Like, I am fully aware that there are better players out there in terms of gameplay on what they have produced so far. I have seen some pretty cool clips. Like, I'm feeling pretty rusty, I'm not even gonna lie on this game, but I do think it's due to the fact that I do play various different games and not just sort of FPS. Like, I play a lot of Marvel Rivals, in case you guys weren't aware. So I play a lot of different types of games, all those sort of all shooters and team shooters and FPS games in itself. But for the most part, I haven't exactly felt like true confidence has hit me yet on this game or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anything. I definitely think there's some cool clips in this gameplay, but what I'm trying to get at is that there's definitely so much potential, and yet what I have already enjoyed so far, I'm not even playing that great, and I'm already really, really enjoying this game. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that even when you're not playing at your best, or you're not really sort of doing that great in terms of scoreboard stats or anything like that, the experience is what Battlefield provides, and that itself is so enjoyable. From playing alongside my friends or even on your own, it does not matter. You could play so many different classes, so many different styles, use different vehicles, different maps, and so many different sort of scales of elements of the game in itself that provides an overall really enjoyable experience. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is what's really amazing about this game. And I guess it's just a beta. There's so much more to come, and that is what's going to be really exciting for the future. Not even talk about the fact that there may be a campaign and maybe even a battle royale mode. All of these sort of things will really go in the sort of in the long run for how good this game could be. Now, the maps have been decent. I won't lie. I won't overglaze them as such. I have enjoyed them 100%, but some are much more fun than maybe the others. But with it being just a beta, I'd say we're in good hands, and overall the maps have been good. I'm not going to overglaze them in comparison to maybe where the game could be, and I'm really hoping there are some sort of better maps later on. But overall, I think so far we've had some good maps. My personal favorite is probably the Cairo Conquest map. I've had some insane moments with teammates, close games, unique experiences, so I'd say that's definitely influencing my decision a little bit here. But overall, the maps are really good in the most part. It just depends on what sort of style you're playing at. I've probably tried different guns on the wrong maps. I've probably come across different teams or players using vehicles or whatever. It can skew your opinions, so just bear that in mind and take it with a pinch of salt. But for the most part, the maps are decent, and I've had a good time so far. Now, as for the modes, I've tried all of the modes, and all of which are great. The smaller 8v8 modes are sort of new to me. I don't really typically play them when it comes to Battlefield, but they have been really good, and I think they work really well. Spawns are a little bit crazy at times, but for the most part, that's bound to happen. And I've sort of always been a Conquest fan myself, and that's typically what I enjoy and play for the most part, and that is definitely what I am sort of going to stick with, and what I have enjoyed the most in its entirety. As for vehicles, I honestly haven't used them a great sort of deal so far in a whole lot, but this is my second beta weekend, which is this weekend, which you'll probably see in this video. I am planning on using them a whole lot more to try and also obtain some gameplay and some clips to share for upcoming videos. As just like with the guns, I'm going to share some vehicle gameplay in future weeks and just go into depth on the actual vehicles themselves. I'm going to sort of previously, I've always enjoyed and thankfully been pretty good at flying. This isn't, I guess, a skill that most people possess, so I'm definitely fortunate enough to say that I can use the choppers, especially the Apaches or other gunships, etc. And I cannot wait to try these out. They've looked amazing, all of the vehicles in itself, and definitely going to get some gameplay to share with you guys. I think tanks are a little bit busted, but I will add that I think if a good squad you're dealing with is sort of surrounding it with like engineers and constantly repairing it, of course it's going to be hard to remove a tank, but I do think they take a lot of rockets or C4 from what I've gathered so far. But as same as like the maps, the guns, and the vehicles, I'm going to create some extra content of all using all the different classes in detail, and that means I'll be using that engineer class a lot more, and hopefully in future videos I can come back to this and share some further thoughts on what the vehicles are like, and maybe the tanks in general, and maybe they're not as overpowered as I thought, but I definitely have had like 1 or 2 maps where the tank just literally runs the entire game, and there's not a great deal you can do about it unless you fully commit. And I guess that's always been the sort of way with Battlefield. I'm not going to lie, like I have been around, like I've said at the start of the video, for quite some time in Battlefield, and that's always technically been the way, so I'm not going to act surprised. I definitely think there's some COD players that have come along and shared their views on the game and vehicles in itself, and I don't necessarily want them to sort of nerf them into the ground, because they have to be sort of dominant in the most part. Being on the ground and infantry does mean you are going to be at a disadvantage versus vehicles, and that is the whole point. You're meant to change your classes, your squad mates are meant to have a bit of a mixture of variety to be able to deal with these sort of encounters, and that's kind of the whole gist of the game in itself. And then just finally, I wanted to touch on the firing range in itself. I just wanted to sort of go over the aspects for anyone struggling with their aim or the movement or just shooting in general in this game. Try and go into the firing range and adjust your settings, your infantry aim sensitivity, your aim down sight sensitivity. All of this will significantly help you, and at least it has done for me on various different titles. And I recall in 2042 I actually probably spent more time in the settings in 2042's beta than the actual game in itself, because it just felt so wrong and unnatural, and I guess that all alludes to as to why Battlefield 2042 just wasn't for me, and it didn't do that great, because for the most part it didn't tick that box for a lot of players. But look, I'm not going to go over that. I just want to say that the firing range is really helpful, and thankfully it has felt great so far. As soon as you get the right settings, it feels so much better, so spend a little bit of extra time in the firing range and it will massively help you out. I'm a faster player, so I play on a higher sense, and then sort of make it easier to control the recoil and shoot the guns at further ranges by slowing down that ADS sense. Always helps. help. So just a little bit of a tip for anyone who that may help, or is also struggling with trying to figure these things out. In summary, I think the beta so far has been very enjoyable and an overall success. I pre-ordered the game myself, and I cannot wait for the game's release. And like I said, I'm going to continue to produce sort of weekly content going up to the game's release and giving you guys some beta gameplay from vehicles, sort of weapons, modes, maps, and I'll share some content on all of the different classes and stuff like that. So stay tuned and look out for that on the channel. With that said, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, do not forget to like and subscribe. It massively helps me out and growing a small channel. And if you have any suggestions for Battlefield 6 content that you want to see on the channel, or any cool clips, tips, or tricks, or thoughts that you want to share about the game, let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm VisionlessGen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.